All the roads are windy.
Welcome to the show, Jessie, Susanna. It's been, I think, since 2018 since we last had you on the show back when we were Dream Freedom Beauty. So I'm really excited to have you back. Thanks for coming back.
Thank you for inviting me into the new iteration.
Cool. Would you like to set the energy for this conversation?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say that money is extremely intimate. And so I thank everyone who's listening, and I really want to honor the work that you're all doing for yourself by showing up even just to listen to this conversation about money, that it might open an intimate place within you. And I really honor and hold with care, like being allowed to enter that space in your energetic field. So thank you. I'm proud of you for your work, and I'm holding you with gentleness and care. And invite all of our ancestors, spirits, guides, angels, deities to walk with us today in our work, knowing that this work is both for ourselves, for our ancestors, and for our descendants, for the lineage that we call the future. And I want to just give thanks and gratitude to Spirit for bringing us to this moment in this audio constellation. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And I would love to hear, what are your ancestral lineages?
I am mostly Germanic and Celtic a little bit. So that's my DNA heritage. And then my spiritual lineage is Judaism as a convert.
And where are you now in the world, and who are the people of that land?
I am located on unceded Ramaytush Ohlone land in what's known as San Francisco, California.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for being here. And as I mentioned before we got on the call, money is a topic near and dear to me, especially in the last few months. And really excited to get into. I love this. You're the money witch. You're the money witch. So you're bringing it. The physical and the energetic and the practical. It's not just like, let's do a spell and hope it all falls into place. You're like, no, you gotta do your bookkeeping. So I'm really excited to hear about what's happening in your world around this. And I just want to start right off just talking a little bit about, you've got a new book coming up. This book is called Money Magic, Practical Wisdom and Empowering Rituals to Heal Your Finances. So I imagine this book has been a long time in the making. I mean, years and years and years of your experiences. And I think, I'd love to hear, how did this book become birthed? Like, what did it speak to you? Were you what happened? Because I kind of love this energetic angle of how these books are coming into the world. So I'd love to hear this book birth story.
I love that. Well, yeah, the book, I don't know, it's new, it's here, but it's not quite here. I have some, but it was supposed to be birthed in December. And I think when it would have been like a Sag. But now it's coming out March 1st because of global supply chain. So it's going to be a Pisces, and we're just going to assume that, everything about that is perfect and right. So it's even this extended, I've had this additional trimester kind of sitting with it. Right. And it's been so fun this last little while to kind of start talking to people about the book, or people who have had a sneak peek at the book, because it's it makes it feel more real. So I feel like I'm telling the story, but it almost we're having this conversation on February 1st. So it's exactly 1 month. And it feels like real, but almost not quite yet for me. But yeah, the origin, I guess the conversation around this book would have started in 2018, also probably like later 2018. Is that even true? No, 2019. I don't know. The pandemic has been such a weird thing to time. 2019. And it was an idea, and then it was invited into being by kind of like publishing midwifery, I guess. So I just kind of knew, like, I'm going to write a book, like that's the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write a book. And then when I knew that, I started getting some invitations from publishers to write a book. And I talked to 3 different people. And then the offer from Chronicle Books, who's my publisher, is the one that I accepted. And they basically just invited me to say, what do you want to, pitch us a proposal. So I wrote a proposal that is based on a workshop that I teach called Heal Your Finances, which is a 7-step process to healing your finances.
Cool. And when you were like, I'm going to write a book, did you reach out to publishers, or did like the universe just start bringing you publishers?
Well, the universe brought it to me. It really came through. I'm going to give a lot of credit as a kind of doula in this process to an editor. Her name is Lisa Butterworth, and she's an editor for Bust Magazine, as well as some other things. I think maybe she does some writing for like Martha Stewart weddings, or I don't know, things like that. But she reached out to me and put a copy of, I have 2 zines, which, are self-published, but she put a copy of my first zine in Bust Magazine. And I feel like editors from publishers saw that, and I started getting some invitations from that. So I'm going to credit Lisa with being the kind of origin story in Bust Magazine, of being the origin story of that. But the invitations came to me.
I love that. That's really such a beautiful example of just how things, like this greater energy flowing through us. And if we show up, we can just go for the ride. So something about money, money is like, I know for me, it is like one of the most energy, it's got so much energy around it. And I've been working through a lot of this. And for so many people, they either feel like they never have enough money, or they have to sacrifice their lives to make money. Or if they have money, they're bad, eat the rich. Like there's just so much around money. And as a witch, what is your approach to money? Some people see it as energy. Some people see it as currency. I don't know. I guess I want to just hear about like, what's your approach to like dealing with the kind of shadow side as well as necessity of money as a part of our lives?
I think that I really ground in what is basically the fundamental spiritual belief of my practice and my work, as within Money Witch, which is I call the Earth Journey. And it's my belief that our most important, like if you're incarnated as a human, your most important piece of spiritual work that you could be doing right now is being human. Because there is, billions of years when your soul was not human, and there will be so long when it's again not human. And for somewhere between 0 and 120 years, you're called into this particular human life. And for those of us who are listening to this podcast, on this podcast, we've been called into human incarnation within settler colonialism, within late stage global capitalism. And that's what it means to be human right now. Like that's our, as humans, we're animals, and a huge part of our work is just material survival, right? Like earthly material survival, that earth journey. And and this is the context we're doing it in. So it's not, it's not about avoiding the context, or it's not a coincidence or an accident, or just like, oh my God, it's a bummer that I have to do this and I have to do it within the context of this. It's like, no, that's the job. Like that's actually the job. And it's for your soul's like highest evolutionary purpose to work through this. So I don't know. I don't spend a lot of time like thinking about how much it sucks, because it kind of just doesn't matter, because here we are.
I love that. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. It's just this acceptance of like, we were born into this body, into this earth, late stage capitalism. You're one person. You're not going to change it. It's just like, what do you do with this now? It's almost like, okay.
Yeah. And it's like resistance energy is important. There's all different roles to play. You know, I don't identify as anti-capitalist, because I'm not actively dedicating my work to opposing capitalism. I do a lot more work in like helping people navigate capitalism. So I say that I'm capitalist critical. And you know, I'm not a proponent of conscious capitalism or anything like that. Like, I don't see anything good about capitalism. It's inherently extractive, and that's inherently violent. That's like the basis of capitalism. And I respect like all different, you know, roles within that like political resistance struggle. But like, we have to money, you know, every hour, every day. And so many people who have like important roles to play on this earth are just struggling. And just need like navigation skills. Just like, even if we were to defeat the system in 6 months, like, it's like you'd still have to manage your money, like your resources, like management of your resources and understanding the structure that it like lives within would still be part of what you had to do. So you can't like avoid it.
Yeah, really, really, really tangible. I mean, we are, and you said like we're animals, and like part of, I think I learned this more and more the deeper I've gone into my intuitive journey and into my magical practice. It's just taken me deeper and deeper back into my animal body and accepting being a physical being. Almost as like my spiritual journey has been like, oh, you're a physical being right now.
Yeah, I'm just like, I think it says in my book, like, I'm just like, you know, like, I'm so glad you were like in Atlantis, like I was there too. But like, the point is right now, you're here right now. So it's like, you know, that's like great, but it's like, you're not like, we're made of stars, but we're not like living in the stars right now. Like right now, you know, you'll get back there. But right now it's just like, no, literally having a body, having to survive, having housing, you know, living in relationship, like all of those things that are just like so animalistic. Like that's really the job.
Really, really feel that. So, you know, something I'd love to hear from you, because I'm sure you've seen this through working with so many people and being so deep in this topic, is what are some of the biggest, I don't quite know the right word, but like maybe beliefs around money, or think, you know, what are the people who are struggling with money? Why are they struggling? What beliefs might they be carrying, or what types of trauma or needs aren't being met, or resistance or objections to money might they be carrying that are keeping them from moving beyond the struggle?
I mean, there's so many branches within it, you know, it's just like anything. Like, why are people struggling with sex? Why are people struggling with food? Why are people struggling with, you know, anything, right? But self-love, there's so many different iterations and journeys, like they're totally unique of how we get to the story, but there's some kind of like heavy hitting umbrellas. I would say one is like avoidance. So that's a lot of what I've been talking to already today, which is just sort of for political or spiritual reasons, just kind of being like, well, I don't really vibe with this, so I'm just going to avoid it as much as possible. And there's other reasons for avoiding it too, right? Like it's violent, it's disempowering, it's like anxiety producing, all these things. But I'm just like, it just is like, you just have to deal with it, right? Just like having a body, you have to deal with it. So, and there's different periods of your life where you can get away with avoiding it, but there's always consequences. And I think, as some of us get a little older, it's like, well, this is what I want in my life. And then you're just like, well, there's no way to do those things, build those things, have those things, create those things, offer those things, unless I'm interacting more intimately with finances. So I think like avoidance is a huge one, which it's like, yeah, why wouldn't you want to avoid something that kind of, it sucks, and it's tied to so much, structural. It's really the basis of structural inequality, caste system, racialized caste system, all that. I mean, it's all economics. So I think it makes sense that people want to avoid it. So I don't know. That's a big one.
Yeah, it makes total sense. I mean, I see it. I know. I've lived it. I've been it.
I mean, I live it every day too, like I am also always on a journey. So
I love that you shared that, because it's not like you get over it once and then you're like done with the avoidance forever. It sounds like for you, and I know for me, it's like this kind of thing that I have to kind of reckon with and accept almost every day.
And it's not, just we have to like continuously remember to divorce our healing journey from capitalist beliefs. And like capitalist beliefs are, the beliefs of empire is like that, things are linear, right? So you have a healing journey and you've worked through X, Y, and Z. So now you're over it, but it doesn't really work like that. Like a different circumstance can arise, or, you're at a different vantage point and the same things can be triggered. So I guess for me, I really feel like people don't always give enough space and time, because they often don't feel entitled to give enough space and time to understanding the way that their emotional issues and trauma and, spiritual trauma, lineage issues, all those things like impact their finances. I mean, it's all of it. It's massive. So I think it's like we spend a lot of time trying to do things in our finances as if we had already done the healing work, the emotional and spiritual healing work, and then getting like mad, frustrated, ashamed, guilty that we can't like make it work, and it's really, just like a lot of different things in empire. It's like we are not going to the root of what's going on. So this book really is dedicated to encouraging people to be like, what, like, oh, what's wrong with your finances? Like, it's probably emotional and spiritual.
Let's get into that. So like, that, because I hear you saying, you can like balance your checkbook, you could do, do your bookkeeping, whatever, if you're in a business, but you could even budget out your stuff, but unless you deal with what's actually underneath of it, those like top level Band-Aid strategies aren't really gonna do what they gotta do, what you're hoping for.
Something will crumble it eventually.
So let's get into some of the aspects of ritual and healing that you have found really helpful for yourself and for others. Like what is kind of your approach here, and why? I mean, you don't have to convince me of anything because I am all about ritual, but I think just to hear like your philosophy, I think of like, why ritual?
I think that, I mean, so many reasons, really, right? So, number one, it's a way to engage with the topic in an experiential way that's not just about our brain, like a mental process. It's a way to bring our bodies like into the learning and the experience, and and that's important. Like, we're learning more and more all the time, right? Like that move into kind of more somatic knowledge, and acknowledging the wisdom of our bodies and the way that our body will know things or hold on to things even when we've kind of tried to convince our brains out of them. At the same time too, it's like your mental can also impact your physical, right? So it's like it's all part of an ecosystem. But I think that's one reason. I think that especially because money is a material, tangible thing, it is important to have a material, tangible relationship with it. And that's why a lot of the work that I do is based on like altar work, like money altars. I think altar work is extremely, extremely powerful and healing and necessary, like for humans, because it is a way to create a physical representation of a, kind of like emotional, spiritual, mental concept that we're trying to have a relationship with. So when we are doing that altar work or creating something like especially tangible or going through ritual, where we're kind of creating in space and creating in time, we're able to deepen a more tangible relationship with something that is often only a mental process.
So beautifully put. Thank you. And I have behind me my altar. I just love altars as well. It's yeah, such a beautiful. So in your altar work, what are some of the like without without giving all away, what are some of your key components of altar work? Because to someone who's maybe like heard of an altar, but they've never made one, and they're like, am I doing it right? Or like, what do I even do? Like, how, what? Like,
well, I have a little zine, but anyway, it's called Money Magic. So it's going out of print as my book comes to be birthed, but has a lot of money altar work, and I'm going to rewrite it and include some other stuff and bring it back, probably by the end of 2022. But, and you actually can access it on my Patreon. So that's a good, like, there's a sidebar. That's where it is. But, I love to I want to answer those questions, and I always sort of love to just like bypass them too, because I'm just like, it's like, there's no right way to do it. There's no right place to put it, well, there is, but it will tell you. And also like altars, I notice that even when people don't think they have an altar, like most people do have altars around, like whether that's just like little tchotchkes or the way you arrange your dresser with like all your, products and perfume or whatever, the way you put your jewelry or the way you set up your desk, like, there's like altar is just, it's sort of like the placement of objects in an intentional fashion for a spiritual purpose. I guess that's what makes it different than like a diorama. But I think, when you want to make an altar, I think of like altars for purposes like I encourage people, let's just talk about money altars because that's where we're here. So, if you're going to have a money altar, it's like make a little space that is just for your money altar. And then you can literally just ask your house or your room or, where should I put this? Or you can put it somewhere and then just pay attention to like, does it feel right to be there or not? Does it feel like when you go to it, you sort of avoid it, you never want to go there? Maybe it's in the wrong place. Maybe you should move it. It's not, I'm a pretty intuitive practitioner, and just encourage other people to follow their intuition with that. And also, it's like things are about making it work. Like, it's not about perfection, right? So, if you only have this one little space in the corner or in a box in your bedroom, then that's where it's going to go. So just put it there. And then, a great place to start with a money altar is just a physical piece of money, right? That's a great place to start.
Yeah, I have a little silver, I don't know, bowl full of coins, and like, the gold $1 coins and other coins. It's like really fun, and I like hearing the clinky clinky sound.
Color change is very important to me. I really look for change everywhere I go. And it's a sign to me that I'm on the right path when I find pennies and dimes, especially. And a sign that one of my guardians, which is Hermes Mercury, is looking out for me. And I have a little ritual that I do, and then I'll put it in my bra, and then I bring it home, and then I put it in my little dish. So
love it. Love it. So when someone's at their altar, what are they doing there?
Well, psychologically, I think what they're doing there is seeking a mirroring experience, which is, something that we come out of the womb needing and desiring and spend most of our life in pursuit of. Ultimately, that's what all relationship is. It's what all marketing is. It's like we're seeking to see ourselves reflected. And, I think altars can be really powerful because it's a reflection that you have control over. You're not going to be out in the world seeking, running after these things, being hungry for that reflection, because you can kind of give it to yourself. So I think it's also a reflection of a reminder that you're in a process about something. This is being about money, right? Oh yes, I'm in a healing process about money, and I'm reminded of that by this physical object, which I sort of think that's what all magical objects are, whether it's a little talisman, or it's the altar, or even essences, gem essences and things like that. When you see the little bottle, you're like, yes, I am trying to, heal my inner child wounds, or whatever it says on the bottle. Right. So I think just the reflection, the reminder. So that's kind of the framing of what you're doing, what you could be doing, what does it look like for you is going to be a little unique. But I think just visiting, even offering your presence, just spending a little time there. Okay, I'm going to spend, even 3 minutes standing at the money altar, just looking at it, letting my mind go to whatever happens when I stand here. I'm going to notice what's on my mind. I'm going to notice how I'm feeling. It could be doing a little grounding exercise. It could be doing a little wishing or money intention for the day, or reading. I love to put kind of an affirmation or an intention on the altar, or having a tarot card there that's representation of an archetype that I'm trying to cultivate in my financial healing journey at that time. So, maybe I'm just stating my intention to co-create with the universe in alignment with a certain energy that I'm calling in my finances at that time. It could be being thankful, making an offering, giving gratitude, especially if you do have a spirit or a deity that is relevant to your financial healing process that you're calling in on your money altar. Yeah, there's a lot of different things you could be doing.
Love it. I love it. I love working with my altar, and one of my very favorite things is making offerings. And even this morning, I'm a 1 cup of green tea a day kind of girl here. And I was, I had my little matcha latte, and then I was like, oh, I really want another cup of tea. But I was like, but my body is hell no. So I could feel it. And I was like, oh, I think this is my guides just would like a little green tea. And so I made them a cup of jasmine green tea and put it on the altar as an offering for them. And the craving was gone. And I'm like, just get them buzzed up, So, and it's just so fun. It's a little portal that, and you mentioned this earlier, we're dealing with this intangible thing. This kind of brings it to a tangible space, a focused space for that reflection. I love that way you talked about the mirroring. What kind of rituals are you, guiding people through in this book?
So the book is organized on the basis of these 7 steps, right? Like it's a 7-step process. And then there is an introduction, but each of the 7 steps has a little like toolbox that goes with it, a magical allies toolbox that has an astrological role model, some crystals, a tarot card, and some herbs that would like align with the work of the chapter. And then each chapter closes out with a ritual that kind of helps you to digest the work of that step or that chapter. So they're kind of all over in terms of, walking through the different steps, but there is like a bathing ritual. There's an altar, building an altar is one of the rituals. There is it's called Married to the Money, but like basically like making, having a little moment of committing to your money and then making a little amulet that is like, represents that union. So it goes a lot of different places. It's pretty fun, but it's sort of just like, let's explore it. We've done a lot, we've read, now let's like do something with that.
I mean, like you said, like rituals are this experiential into the somatics, the embodiment of it, instead of just this intellectual understanding in your mind. Like that's where the magic happens.
I'm just trying to offer, like, there's a lot of that in the book. There's also like journal prompts. There's little kind of like mindfulness moments, like, okay, just stop for a minute and, touch in with this or do a little meditation. And ideally, I'm striving to kind of try to make the book more accessible, but really just like more digestible to more kinds of brains.
Yeah. And then just listing them out. What are those 7 steps?
Oh, yeah. Well, I would say it's based on a journey analogy. So it's like locating where you are, locating where you want to go. And then basically, it's like you make your intention to go. And then on your journey, you're going to have challenges arise. So kind of like identifying the obstacles, identifying the tools that you need to work with the obstacles that arise, and then just keeping going with the work. It's a pretty basic framework that I feel like you could use it to heal anything, right? But it helps to just have things broken out. Like, let's try this. Now all we have to do is this. Now all we have to do is this. Now all we have to do is this. I think of it like, it always reminds me of an episode of Dora the Explorer, for anyone who has kids in their life, because it's like she goes on she has a journey somewhere. It's like the modern, she's kind of like, Dora is sort of like the hero's journey, and so she has to go somewhere and she's going to be presented with these obstacles. She has a purpose where she's going. She's going to be presented with these obstacles. Every time she has an obstacle, she needs to like have the right tools in her little magical backpack. And, that will help her kind of like overcome the obstacles and reach to their side. So it's sort of like a hero's journey of finances.
I haven't seen Dora the Explorer. Might catch an episode just to... That's cool. And, it's sounding to me too, just how I would characterize a healing journey. Because when you're like, you're talking about point A and point B and what's your intention. And then as soon as you make that intention, the universe shows up to be like, hey, here's exactly the situation that's keeping you from being at point B. And here's your chance to find a deeper resource or an alternative reaction to this than the old pattern that you had that isn't serving you anymore. And this is like the healing journey as well. So yeah.
It's funny though, because I've been talking about this a lot lately. Like, often it can be easy to overlook blessings because sometimes, really oftentimes, the blessing looks like work, because it's like, oh, okay, well, you want this thing. We're going to help you be ready to prepare for it. We're going to point out all of the things that are like actually incompatible about like how you're doing things, how you're seeing things that would like prevent you from being ready to receive, this thing that you want. And, medicine works in like very funny, interesting ways.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. Oh, wow. So much money stuff. I almost wish that we had like a live line that we could have people be like, what's your live money questions?
That's actually what I do on my Patreon.
Oh, perfect.
Patreon a few months ago. And I do like a monthly video live Q&A where I call it like 1-800-Money Witch. So it's just like, okay, putting questions ahead of time or just show up and ask your questions. And, it's everything, right? Sometimes like last time someone was like, can you talk about the difference between like the 7 of Pentacles and the 8 of Pentacles? I really like, have a hard time really kind of like understanding what's the difference between them. So it could be that, or it could be like, is this deductible on my taxes? Or it could just be anything. So it's really fun. I love the advice column style.
I love that. I'm glad you already have that because obviously was a thing. Cool. So
column, if anyone out there wants to pay me money to write a column.
Putting it out there.
Yes, I think 1-800-Money, which is like a really fun.
I agree. I wholeheartedly. Whoever's going to pay Jessie, Susanna for this, you get my endorsement. I love that. So money. Let's see. I think, we talked about some of those biggest reasons why people struggle with money and that avoidance. I think I want to return to that and just see, are there any other like big reasons why people struggle with money? And I love what you said about there's so many people who have important roles to play, but they're struggling with money. And I think this is so important to really say and to really almost like be like the integration, the acceptance and healing with money is part of being able to bring forward these gifts and all of these important, beautiful roles people have. So I don't know, I guess this just really hits home for me because this has been the journey I've been on the last, my whole life. but it's been like really, it's finally like, I'm finally like walking through the portal and on the other side and accepting this and starting to experience safety with receiving money and seeing how that helps me to help others and help them help others. And like it ripples out. And so I'm feeling, I'm so grateful to be on the other side of this at this point for this kind of cycle of this and be like, yes, let's all heal our money shit. So I think just talking about too some more of the reasons why people struggle with money, and maybe almost, maybe someone will hear it and they'll like maybe it'll hit them and they'll just be like, okay, it's time for me to face this. That's my hope, because I think this is really true. It's like the people who have important roles to play and are struggling with money, like this is part of the journey towards stepping into that role. I know it. I've lived it. So yeah, take us there.
Well, in response to that, first, I want to say, absolutely. I have a little talk, like it's on my online course. It's just a little 1-hour talk based on a talk that I gave at the Girl Gang Craft Small Business Summit a couple years ago. And it's called Taxes as Self-Care, but it's really about resistance energy. And the premise is sort of like your resistance energy is sacred and it's really needed on this earth, in this society. And also so much of your creation energy is necessary. And resistance is sacred and it's also exhausting. And so you have to be really discerning with what you give your resistance energy to. And I think that people mistake avoiding their personal finances for like resisting a system or like resisting materialism or resisting, capitalism. And it's not, those are not the same thing, right? Like you're not doing anything to create like resistance within the system or destruction within the system by overdrafting your account or not filing your taxes or, any of those things, not doing the bookkeeping for your business. You're only being self-sabotaging and creating like self-destruction. And, that's worth looking at, right? Because it really does, it's an energy suck like in your life. So the point of going in, to anything, right? The point of going into any healing moment is to ultimately be giving that thing a little less energy in your life, right? And so the point of kind of like going in on the financial piece is that ultimately it will free up creation energy and it will close up this kind of like energy leak in your life. So that's, just to kind of like riff off what you were saying, because I, was inspired by that idea too. But I think outside of avoidance, the idea I've been working with the most heavily over the past year is the inner child work that is a part of your finances and part of your financial healing journey. I have been focusing on that a lot and focusing on it with clients and in teaching. And I'm finding that to kind of be some of the most potent work within the realm of financial healing currently. So I made a gem essence elixir to work with it. It's called Sugar Mama, and it's for the financial reparenting process. So just to put that out there, I love that. Like, I feel so dedicated to that idea that I like made a medicine for it because it really excites me. And every time I talk about it, it really seems to unlock something for a lot of people. I think that when you're not in your full financial adulthood, there's sort of like nobody sitting in the desk chair in the like CFO office of your life. And traumatized children, including like our inner, traumatized children, are always looking, they're like ever vigilant for what is not being taken care of by the adults around them and what is their job. Like, what roles do they have to fill? And if they look in that office enough times and there's no one in the chair, like they will just assume that's their responsibility. And then you have kids running your finances. And I think that is true for way more people than we, I think that's true for just so many people. And it's like, it could be not true 100% of the time. It's like the chair could be getting occupied by different people at different times. But, it's like, what do your financial behaviors look like when you're having a moment of like regression, right? Which is like when we hit a struggle moment, we often regress in our behavior. So when you're in that kind of regressive moment, which could be signified by like shopping in a way, just different spending habits that aren't in, we kind of know are coming from like a wounded place or, avoidance that's coming from a wounded place or just like not stepping into our full like maturity and responsibility. Those behaviors are usually coming from like a wounded inner child place.
Well, I can 100% say yes, that's my experience because my wounded inner child was very much pulling the strings of my resistance towards even allowing myself to get paid because there was so much meaning attached with that. And I can like directly connect the dots to the patterns, my needs being met or not met, and the kind of relationships I had with my parents and money, and that they like, I could like, there's a whole story, like it's there. And that journey has been one of the hardest journeys ever to heal. And it's been the most worth it as well. I'm like finally feeling free. And that inner child feels safe now and is no longer has to be the CFO, because adult Natalie is like, all right, we're gonna do some adult financial stuff now. And it feels so good. So anyone out there, like, I see you, I feel you. And Jessie, Susanna, you have just like laid it out there. So clear. And thank you for that. It's no small journey to go on, but the rewards are well worth it.
Yeah. I mean, and it's just the job. Like, this is, it's like being a soul is like, you just have a job. This is your job right now, sorting it out. And I think that, it's worth it for your individual evolution. And I think that like our individual soul evolution assignments are part of a larger tapestry, that we're weaving towards like the evolution of humanity. So it's like, I don't know, you don't have to do everything. You just kind of have to show up, like just show up to it, be present with it, and let it be true, let it impact you, let yourself do it, believe that you can do it, right? That's a very subconscious belief. People feel like they can't do it different. Their finances cannot be different. It's just very, very hard to imagine, or it's hard to imagine, overcoming the obstacles or getting the tools that you need, or, like, how could it possibly happen? But, it doesn't really happen unless you show up to it. And like, once you show up to it, any number of things are possible.
Yeah, I feel that. Okay, I want to get kind of more personal with it and hear a little bit from you about, what do you like spending money on? How do you have fun with money?
Yeah, it's so funny. I love that question. When I was online dating, I feel like it's a really good question to ask people, like, what do you love spending money on and what do you hate spending money on? I hate spending money on like temporary, like hotels or Airbnb. Like, I don't know why, I just like hate it. I just don't want to do it. But I love spending money on clothes. I love shopping. I really like material objects. I'm sort of like a material object over experience girl. And maybe that's why, I'd rather, like, I'm like, well, I could stay at an Airbnb, or I could like buy a $200 pair of shoes. Like, I'd always rather have the $200 pair of shoes personally.
I love that though, because, that is a different experience. Like it's the experience, just witnessing you on your Instagram and how you show up, you have this element of sacred adornment and play. You have such a playfulness, and it's apparent that material objects are such a vessel of creativity for you, such a channel for that.
Yeah, I really, I think you really get curatorial minds, like I'm very creative and artistic, but, like I can't draw or paint or sculpt or whatever, but it's like, I can, like craft like a relationship to objects. My relationship to objects is very strong. So, that's definitely like housewares, shop, like any kind of shopping. I love. That's where I like to spend my money.
That's so funny because I'm the opposite. So I'm like, maybe I could hire you to shop for me. And I absolutely could be like a stylist or like a personal shopper or something like that. Like, absolutely. Oh, wow. And those people are important because there's people like me out here who wear the same clothes until they're threadbare because I kind of hate shopping. I'm like, so I love hearing just the spectrum of this. And then is there anything in your chart or like any of your kind of, like your astrology chart or your human designy things that you think might indicate this leaning towards material objects versus experience?
That's an interesting question. I mean, the funny thing about my astrological chart is I always feel like it's like kind of secret, which is like I'm the money witch, right? But I have no earth in my chart, like at all, except Chiron. My Chiron is in Taurus, and that's it. So, which I just think is kind of funny. It's funny. I do have my Sun, Venus, and Mars are all in the sixth house. So I feel like I have a little like honorary Virgo energy. Like I say an astrologer told me one time I'm like the queen of the sixth house. So definitely like queen of the sixth house energy. And I think of
what does the sixth house represent? Or is that what you're getting into?
So it's like Virgo is like the temple priestess. And it kind of makes sense to me, right? Because it's about like building in space, right? Like tending the little details of things, building out sacred space. A part of the priestesshood is like sacred adornment and the kind of like costumes and the pageantry of it. And I think all of that to me is like aesthetics are a form of accessibility, and it's like the aesthetics of things make them desirable. That's an important part of my work. Like even my book, it looks really beautiful, and that was really important to me to be like, let's make a personal finance book that just like looks really beautiful, where you like want to touch it and look at it and read it and have it on your bedstand and like carry it around with you. So yeah, I think it's like a little bit of that, the temple, like tending the temple energy. Other than that, I don't know. Yeah, where that is.
Well, it's kind of funny because like Chiron, I don't know much about astrology, but like the wounded healer, and this is, you've devoted your life to this topic. So it kind of makes sense to me, but
Yeah, it makes sense.
So shopping. Where do you like to shop? I'm just curious.
All over. I had always been like a huge thrifter. I'm 40. I'm about to be 41. And so, I've been thrifting since like the mid 90s. And so it's just whatever. It's been a journey, but yeah, so many things come from the thrift store, but like I'm somebody who could sort of find something anywhere. I don't love to online shop. I like to go in person and shop, but it's like, I can go to Target and find something amazing. I can go to Bloomingdale's and find something amazing. I can go to the dollar store and find something amazing. I can go to the thrift store and find something amazing. I can find amazing things on the street. I'm like kind of a little scavenger raccoon lady like that as well. But yeah, and I have like, I love to shop when I travel because I feel like then you have things from all over, like that'll always kind of be my souvenir is like, oh, let me buy, a piece of clothing wherever I am so that I'm like, oh yeah, I got that, in New Orleans, or I got that in Brooklyn, or I got that in, LA. And you kind of get something unique, like wherever you are. So always gathering, always scavenging, always gathering.
Maybe a new zine coming out, how to activate your scavenging magic. I don't know.
It would be called Nasty Old Raccoon Lady.
I mean, I might buy that.
What's not to like about that?
It's just honest. Raccoons are awesome anyways. So.
I know. I am really compelled by them. My boyfriend's from South Texas, and he's like, you could have a raccoon as a pet. Like, I've seen people do it, and I'm like, babe, can I have a raccoon? He'd be like, really? Can I really have a raccoon as a pet? I want to do it. They're so cool.
Tell me more, like, what does a raccoon represent to you? Like, what comes through when you're engaging with raccoon?
It's just like, it's the scavenginess. It's like the ingenuity. It's the just like they're not mean, but they're really like not having it either. Like it's just like no. they're very crafty. They're just kind of like lurkers, they're like lurking and scavenging and just like willing you to get out of their business. I guess that's where it resonates with me.
Thinking about this here, I feel like they're kind of like cats with thumbs or like cats with hands, because I don't know, they've got this kind of like, I'm going to do what I want energy, but then they also can do what they want because my cat cannot open the door. He tries, but I feel like a raccoon, they can like open the lid and like do
it all. So I feel like I used to be a big cat person, but I haven't had a cat in a long, long time. But yeah, they definitely do have, they're a bit feline, but they're, I don't know, a little like grittier or something. I like that. No offense to cats.
I mean, they would not let it known that they were even offended. So I think the cats are going to be okay. Cool. So, so much goodness. Really, I love this conversation, and I really hope it's illuminated something or given someone permission to like dive into their finances with a little more magic, and permission.
Yeah, I think it's just like, that's the message, right? Like, it could be fun. It could be not terrible. It could be not hideously boring. It could be an important key to like all these other things that you want and need in your life. It's just like, it doesn't have to be, it encapsulates so much, but at the same time, it doesn't have to be as built up as we make it to be. Like, it exists. It is what it is. Like, let's be more reverential for our finances, and at the same time, not necessarily like imbue them with all the kind of like negative power that we give them, right? Like, it's it's like the whatever, the noise under the bed or the monster in the closet or whatever, where it's like, oh, well, when you really take a look at it, you're like, oh, that's not as scary as I thought. It's just, it is what it is, right? It just is what it is. It has needs. It exists. You can't ignore it. It's not meant to take over your life, but it's also not meant to be excluded from your life, So just like allowing yourself to be in relationship with it is going to make it right sized. And I don't know, you can, like, you just can do it. So I'm excited to be spreading that. That's my good word. I'm excited to be spreading that around.
You can money too. I like that. Awesome. Well, you have your book, and what else do you offer, and where can people find you?
I occasionally offer one-on-one intuitive financial coaching. So I'll open up sessions. It's not something I always am available for, but I have a wait list on my website, which is at moneywitch.com. And you can get on the wait list and then, find out when there's openings. I have some online courses, one that is about bookkeeping and taxes for small business babes, one that is called Heal Your Finances, which mirrors the process in the book. That little talk about taxes as self-care, that's about like resistance energy in your finances. I have a whole line of money magic products that I make. And that's all on my online store, which you can find on my website. So I have a spray. It's like an experience abundance. They're all gem essence based. So I have like a spray and a tea and 5 different essences and a like energetic hygiene salts product that helps you clear your energy called Not My Problem. And all my like little writing and all that is on my store. You can find me on Instagram at money.witch. That's a great place to start. You can see me in all my videos and whatnot. I have a YouTube channel. I have a Patreon where you can kind of interact with me, asking questions, getting answers to your questions. And I have a few like online group programs that I'm running this year. One about budgeting, one about for small business babes with the taxes and the bookkeeping, Business Coven. And then I'm going to be doing a 10-month book club, monthly book club for my book once it comes out. So starting in April, and you can kind of join in at any point or come to a one-off session if you want to just like explore or dive into the work of one of the chapters.
Beautiful. Beautiful. All right, folks, you heard it all. We'll have moneywitch.com and her Instagram as well in the show notes. So you can scroll right down there, click that, and let her know that you heard her on Earth Speak. And just thank you so much, Jessie, Susanna, for doing this money work and sharing it with others so they can money too, and for coming on the show and sharing today.
Thank you so much for having me.
All the roads are windy.
Listen to over 200 free EarthSpeak podcast episodes on your favorite podcast app and visit earthspeak.love to learn about our collective community and workshops.